Hey everybody, this is Eddy Dacius. We here with another show with Divine Purpose Podcast. Like you know, this episode is brought to you by Dacius Facility Management. Dacius Facility Management, they will manage your property with a variety of services. We have a wonderful guest. Her name is Kathy Belletty and Katie. How are you today?
I am good. How are you, Eddie? Thank you so much for having me here.
I'm good, and thank you for being here with us on that on our episode with Divine Purpose Podcast. So
Absolutely.
let's start with our intro now.
Welcome to the Divine Purpose Podcast, where we transport you along one of the more dynamic journeys of life. Have you ever been curious to know what it takes to become a successful leader? Or about knowing the secrets of life through the Bible? How about engaging in conversation where no topics are off limits? We will take you to new levels with guests who can help you grasp the importance of your calling. Now, here's your host, Eddy Dacius, founder of Dacius Facilities Management.
Hey, we back with Divine Purpose Podcast. Once again, we excited to have our guest. Hey, so I don't know if you familiar with our episode. One thing we like to ask our guests is to you have the floor now to tell us about you.
Oh, man. Eddie, that is a loaded question. Well, first off, my name is Kathy Belletty. I actually own a company called Motivate with K.A.T, which actually stands for Knowledge, Ambition, and Tenacity. It's actually an admissions training and consulting firm. I have been in higher education, specifically the career education sector, for over 16 years.
Wow,
Okay,
wow.
and yeah, it's been a long time. And you know what really made me passionate about higher education is because I was the proprietary student.
Mm.
I started off in a traditional college. After a couple semesters, I'm like, I'm out of here. So then I ended up going to a career school, which was the Right Institute of Technology at the first time. And
Wow.
it's from there where everything actually started.
Ooh,
And
wow.
right now, I'm training advisors to really communicate effectively with students so they can provide the same opportunity.
Wow, thank you for sharing all this. It's a lot of accolades, and we like to hear that. So let's try to break it down. Let's start to break it down a little bit. So one question we like to ask is, what was your dream job when you were in high school? And
Honestly,
when you were little, high school, and in college, because we feel like there's a trend where people, when they started, we had some guests, their motivation to be a lawyer was at the beginning, and some people change to find. The reason we ask that question is to see your path, or was it shaped along your career?
oh man, Eddie. Okay, well, first off, let's start with high school. When I was in high school, I actually wanted to be a hairdresser.
Okay.
I wanted to open up my own beauty salon. That was actually my dream because I've actually been doing hair since I was 14 years old.
Wow.
Okay, and that happened on purpose because it was back in the day when the moms didn't know really how to do those perms, and they have to mix one and two together. That didn't
Yeah.
happen quite well.
Okay.
So from that time, I said, you know what, I still have to go to school looking like this. So I started doing my hair at a very young age. And that's what I always dreamed of doing, opening my own hair salon. It actually changed over the years when I ended up in college. What
Okay.
really set me on this journey from the beginning, I was going in for an interview at DeVry at the time.
Yeah.
And they had an entrance exam. You had
Okay.
to score a certain amount on the English and math test.
Okay.
Passed the math test with flying colors, and I failed the English by one single point.
Mm.
So my advisor at the time, his name was Felix. He got on the phone with the what exam was it? It was one of the SAT exam.
Okay.
In order for me actually get the points that I needed to get into the SAT exam, only take the English portion. And
Okay.
that would actually compensate for the points that I needed for English.
Yeah.
She got on the phone, acted as if he was my dad. And
Mm.
he's like, I have my daughter. She's trying to get into school. What can we do? School starts on Monday. It was a Thursday. They
Wow.
said, look, we have a standby test on Saturday. If your daughter can be here at 8 o'clock, there's always someone who won't show.
Okay.
And then passed the test, started school on Monday.
Monday. Wow.
From that point, I said, you know what? This is what I want to be able to do. I was able to graduate with my bachelor's in 3 years because of Felix.
I'm glad you switched to that. So my next question is, can you share the most challenging in your life?
Ooh, there were so many areas. Specifically when it comes to higher education, I think it's when it's dealing with our students. You know,
Wow.
the career student is a little different. For the most part, when you talk about the traditional student, they come out of high school, they already know what they want to do. They know what university they want to apply for. And
Yeah.
it's just a matter of applying and getting in, right?
Yep.
When it comes to the career student, these are people who are looking for an upgrade, a change. They have no idea in most instances how to go from A to B. You know, so that's where my role will come in. And then they also deal with so many false beliefs that's prohibiting them from, you know, moving forward. I don't know if I could afford this. I haven't been in school for so long. Oh my gosh, I have so many kids. When am I going to find the time? So it's really being able to inspire and keep them uplifted and motivated in order to really follow through and take the next step. I think that's the most challenging when it comes to dealing.
Oh, so what about the best compliment you ever gotten?
Oh man. That is a hard one. Oh my gosh. You know what? I would say that when it comes to the best compliment I've ever received, it was more everywhere that I went, I saw my students.
Okay.
And them being able to tell me, hey, Kathy, guess what? Because of you, I'm now working at my dream job.
Wow. That's powerful. Whoa. That's great. So what one thing you wish you knew before you started your career?
I wish I knew that there were going to be tons of challenges, and there's going to be dozens of times that I just want to throw in the towel. Let me tell you, Eddie, the only reason that I'm really still in this industry, besides my passion, is because God keeps telling me, Kat, you're not going anywhere. As many times as you try to go a different direction, it's like, no, this is what you were created to do, inspire people, and you're going to stay right there.
Stay put, right? Stay put.
Exactly.
So can you go deeper on that, on your explanation where you said it was like finding ways to always stay motivated, and then like we like to call it embrace your calling, because whatever you were meant to be, you can try multiple things.
Absolutely. So when I first came into higher education, I started off as an advisor, you know, so I was a counselor who was enrolling students into school. Then I became a director where I actually had my own team. After that, I felt like I wasn't reaching enough people. So then I became a regional. I had the opportunity to travel to multiple campuses, and I was training the advisors and the directors.
Okay.
At that point in time, I still felt like, you know what, I need to reach more people because I was so limited. You know, I can't train everyone, but then it really gets stressful, not only dealing with the advisors who are trying to inspire, you know, students to make a change, but sometimes when you have to deal with continuously motivating people every single day, it kind of gets draining.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like, you know, I need some of that motivation too. And it came to the point where I got into marketing when I was working with a colleague, and I said, you know what? I really love marketing because it has to do with, you know, dealing with people. And that's when I tried to leave higher education, but something kept pulling me back. Because I was on both sides, and I know there's so many advisors out there who really need someone who's pushing them and motivating them. And I think it's because of the person. I have a service first type of mentality. It's all about serving. And that's what really stirs up, you know, that energy and that passion inside of me that makes me wake up every morning and keep going.
So let's travel back to the past with you. Let's see. So how was it growing up in your in your house? How was it? Like, what was the dynamic?
Oh, it was a very strict household. I'm from the West Indies, so I was originally born in Barbados, right?
Wow.
So my entire family came from Barbados, and I've watched my parents. We came from the background where they had to drop out of high school in order to work in the home and help
Yes.
support the rest of the family.
Yeah.
So when we came to this country, I watched my father, out of 5 siblings, be the one to say, you know what, I got to make a change. And my father is so motivated. He has the type of personality where it's like, you know what, regardless of how hard this task is going to be, I'm going to make it happen. And my aunts and uncles are doing amazing. But at the same time, my father was the one who always drove me and motivated me and said, you know what, you need to learn to do for yourself and not lean on anybody else. That's the type of household that I was brought up in. Plus, when we came to this country, I don't know if you're aware of New York, but I grew up in Bed-Stuy. Bed-Stuy is one of those areas where I wasn't even allowed to go outside and learn how to ride a bike because it was so dangerous,
Wow.
But it was really, that's how I was able to say, I need to follow in my father's footsteps. And then I have a mom who thinks that anything is possible. I would tell my mom tomorrow, I'm running for presidency, and she'll go, okay, I know you could do it,
Wow.
So having those type of dynamics really help.
No, and that's a very fascinating story. So let's go a little bit deeper, where you said you came in the US and especially in New York. Oh, did you experience any culture shock or was it?
Oh man, it was definitely culture shock. It wasn't the most exciting and safe environment that we were in.
Okay.
Thank God for my parents, getting me into church at a very young age. I remember one time my father and I were at the window, and there used to be a big park across the street, and we saw like this white limousine come out, and this pimp type guy, with the hat and the feather, came out and just shot him close range right against the chest. And I was 7 years old at the time, looking out the window watching this.
Jeez.
I went to school right across the street in that park too, and I saw, unfortunately, growing up, a lot of my classmates, they're no longer here.
Wow.
And it wasn't even at this age. It was before we even got into high school. A lot of them, unfortunately, took a toll for the worst. So I was very grateful that after a while, my parents were able to get us out of that neighborhood. So it wasn't the best experience, but I learned a lot from it.
So you will agree, say those experiences help you shape who you are, or try to motivate you to look for higher education, better life, or better opportunities?
Absolutely. I didn't have the opportunity to go to school when I was back in the West Indies,
Okay.
but I can say that when I started off in private school. I did very well, and honestly, this is where I realized that the system is very broken, because I was in private school in kindergarten. I came out of kindergarten learning how to write essays. I go into first grade in the public school sector, and they're like, all right, so the word of the day or the letter of the day is the letter A. So we're all going to write pages of A. And I'm like, write pages of the letter A. I already know how to write paragraphs, But I did very well through elementary school, through junior high school, through college, straight through. And I think it's because I was dedicated to not ending up the same way a lot of my classmates actually ended up. And really and truly, a lot of it had to do with me being able to get into church at a younger age.
Okay.
I started off in the Salvation Army Church, and it was there I started to learn how to play instruments. So I play 6 musical instruments right now.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Wow. So what's your favorite then?
My favorite thing? Let me see. Honestly, right now, my favorite thing is spending time with my baby boy. I'm a first-time mom.
Oh, wow.
He just turned 2.
Woo.
So being able to spend time with him and my husband, it's a totally different dynamic.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But I love spending time with family. That's what I love to do.
So now, and I'm glad you said you're a mom, and that question will probably make more sense for you. I know you have your passion to do what you called to do and what you love to do, but you also have the responsibility of your family.
Yes.
Or do you manage both?
I don't know. Eddie, let me tell you, I would say that's probably one of the most challenging things on a daily basis,
Yes.
because we live upstate and the rest of my family, they're about 2.5 hours away from us. So it's just the three of us up here. My husband, he works about 5 minutes down the block, but that means that I have my son all day, and
Yeah.
he's at that age where you can't just say, Josiah, I need you to do this.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
look at you like, I'm sorry, I don't even understand what you're talking about. Right? So being able to really make sure that he is set, managing him, making sure that he's fed throughout the day, but then I'm on all these Zoom calls, I'm training. It's a lot. And I think that's some of the times where I'm like, okay, am I way over my head? But then I'm like, you know what? If God brought me to this, he's going to bring me through it.
If I know anybody who can make it happen, it's you guys. You guys work it, and the same for me, for my wife. She does a good job too. So let's go with lesson learned. So, in terms of books, what are the books you will recommend our audience?
I would say, well, first would be the Bible,
Yep.
because that's definitely life lessons. But I would say Grant Cardone 10X. Honestly, that was one of the books that was life changing for me, because sometimes we have an expectation or we have a goal in mind, right? And we're just going for that goal. And I found, and this is what I train on also, I found that a lot of times if you have a goal and you're just going for that particular goal, a lot of times you fall short.
Yep.
Right? But that book actually trains your mind to 10x what you're expecting. So it's like, if I have an expectation that I want to have $20,000, just as an example, in the bank in the next 6 months, 10x thinking is, oh, you know what? Instead of 20,000, I'm going to go for $40,000, right? Because now you start to think, what do I need to put into place in order to get that type of revenue, right? But when you start to think above what you think you are limited to, then all of a sudden it's so much easier for you to meet your original expectation. So I would say that book was definitely life changing for me. I probably read it 3 or 4 times.
So let's go. I like to go back because I know I feel like we learn a lot too from the past. The past dictate our present and give us a glimpse of our future. So you graduate high school and you ready to go to college.
Yep.
What was the decision process for you, and how was your experience in college?
Oh my gosh, it was hell. When I came out of high school, I ended up going to a community college first.
Okay.
Because I was kind of undecisive as far as what I wanted to do. So I started off going to Queensborough, and honestly, it was one of the worst experiences I've ever had in my life. I don't feel as if I gained the support that I needed from the instructors.
Okay.
You were kind of out there in the land by yourself. I remember I was in a class one time and this instructor was teaching. And as she was teaching, her underslip was coming down from underneath her dress. And all she did was step out of it and then just continue the lesson. And we're like, so she's going to act like none of us sat here and saw this. Right?
Wow.
But I felt like I was going backwards, so I started to say to myself, maybe I need to try something different. And that's when I went to DeVry, because I needed to be in an environment where I was just given the skills that I needed to get out into the field and do what I wanted to do. So my experience at DeVry was amazing. The instructors were amazing. You got so much support. Everything was very clear as far as the expectations. And that's how I was able to complete in 3 years. And I would recommend career education to anyone, because traditional school is not for everybody.
Yep. Makes sense. So let's talk about mentorship. And I feel like anybody who want to get where you need to be, you need to have those people, the support. Who was like your cornerstone or mentor, people you rely on for advice or kind of guide you to embrace your calling?
That's interesting because it's funny. Some people have the same mentor throughout their entire life.
Yeah.
But for me, I feel as if my mentor changes as I grow older, as my career starts to grow. But I would say consistently, my mentors have been my parents. Really and truly, because they were the ones that was always pushing me. A lot of those times when I felt as if, my confidence was shot and I'm like, maybe I'm not set out for this.
Yep.
They were always the ones that was behind me and they're like, what are you talking about? Have you met you? And I would say right now, one of my biggest mentors and supporters is my husband. My husband's the type of person who feels as if there's anything possible because he met me at the very beginning of my career when I was just an advisor, and he's watched me grown into so many positions and onto a business owner. So when I get to those points where I start to feel like, what am I thinking? He's like, I'm not even going to entertain you right now.
Wow. I like to hear that. I like to hear that because I feel like it's everybody. So it's a good couple opportunity where both can help each other.
Exactly.
Whoa. So we like to stay in the professional aspect of our conversation, but like you mentioned your husband, can you go deeper on how he became your husband?
Oh man. Well, here's a funny story, right? And this is one of those situations where it's like God does not reveal the right person to you until he knows that you're ready. Okay.
You have to say it again, please. Loud.
God does not reveal the right person to you until he knows that you are ready. So my husband, I was renting from my parents, and my cousin actually lived on the 3rd floor, and she was dating a guy at the time. I was walking home one night, and my husband was sitting outside. I never saw him, Eddie. I never saw him standing there. I only saw my cousin's boyfriend.
Yeah.
And he had asked about me, and he's like, well, that's my cousin's, little cousin, my girl's little cousin. She's out of your league. That's what he said to him. What was funny is I never really got introduced to my husband until 2 years later. But here's the crazy thing, Eddie, he was always there. He was always there. I was living in a basement apartment, and his friend was living on the top floor.
Yeah.
So there were times where he would be helping him bring in like TVs and furniture and helping him build his crib. And looking out the window, I would see different pieces of my husband. I would see his legs.
Yep.
I would see his hands. I never knew who this person was until 2 years later. We were at a Super Bowl party that only consisted of the 4 of us.
Wow.
And that's when I actually was introduced to him. But he saw me 2 years prior and had actually inquired about me and never stopped asking. But my mind and my heart was somewhere else at the time. So until that story ended in my life, that is the exact time that I was introduced to my husband.
I'm glad I asked that question, and I think our listeners will definitely enjoy this piece of it because now it's like it's a different dynamic and different perspective from both sides, and they don't understand that each of us has to make sacrifices and get ready. Right? So let's talk about childhood memory. Any childhood memory you can share with us today?
Oh man, I have a lot of childhood memories. I would honestly say some of my best childhood memories is when I was growing up back home.
Okay.
It's a totally different dynamic being on the islands, and being here.
Oh, wow.
But I remember the times, it may seem corny, but I remember the times just driving all over the island in Barbados with my uncle, my favorite uncle, who, by the way, still has my potty in his bathroom from when I was young. But, back home, they always used to sell like barbecue chicken on the grill on the side. So as you're driving down the road, you could just stop and pick up some roasted corn and barbecue chicken. And I remember when I was leaving Barbados to come here, and my uncle still makes fun of me up until this day. I'm looking at the plane and I'm like, Goop, Goop, you can come with us. You can come with us. And he's like, I can't go with you guys. And up until this day, every time that I talk to him, he
Yeah.
still bring up that same memory
Okay.
of when I was leaving Barbados and I had to leave him behind.
I had a guest, Corey McCarty. He's from Barbados too. He's from Texas, but he was telling me, did you ever had a chance to go back?
Yeah, actually, since I came to the States, I used to go back home every single year. Unfortunately, the last time I've been home was back in 2012. It's way too long.
Okay, yeah, definitely. So, one thing we like to hear, and maybe you can help us is, did you ever had a chance you wanted to give up? And who was the one who will never let you give up?
Oh man.
Even you already check out. You always have that faith you'll get through.
Honestly, there's many times that I want to give up. Even now, there's times where sometimes I feel so overwhelmed.
Okay.
And then I suffer from imposter syndrome sometimes.
Oh.
So I get to those points at times where I'm like, well, who am I to be given this type of information? Who am I to be in this place? And I have to get back to the point with prayer when it's like, no, I appointed you here. You were appointed to be here. And really and truly, I think a lot of it comes from my friends and family expressing different things to me where I never even knew that they felt that way. You know, like when it comes to my husband or my sister, for her to say to me, you know, I'm where I am because of you, because I follow in your footsteps. You know, I've watched you growing up because we have a 6-year difference. So she's 6 years under me.
You inspired her, right?
Yeah. And the thing is, sometimes I never knew that these people felt this way. Until, like, I was talking to a friend last week and she's like, you know, I used to be around you some of the times where you're talking about lack of confidence. And I used to say to myself, does she know how amazing she is? And it's like, when you really think about that, it's like, wow, if all these people see it, what's stopping me, you know, from seeing it myself? And I know it's just the enemy. I know it's the enemy that's just playing on my weaknesses.
Yes.
You know, so my family and friends, they would not dare allow me to quit because they're on the outside, you know.
So, one thing I'm trying to encourage people I talk to, or friend or family, and maybe guests, is to find that would be a question, to find a passion where okay, for me, I play soccer, right? I play soccer now. I coach soccer, I coach basketball, but now I've been waiting. So I've been looking for like somewhere to play soccer and like pick up soccer. And I think 5 years I couldn't find anywhere. And one time I went to a park with my wife and kids, and then I saw those guys playing. And then one of them told me, yeah, we play every day. We play every day. Come. And that was it. So since then, I've been playing soccer even when I'm down, very stressful. This will lead me to kind of relieve my stress. And so now my question is, do you have any type of activities like that allow you to reload and get ready for your next challenge? Because the stress gonna still coming.
Yeah, actually, it's funny. I have 2 of my besties, right? We always say, like, when we get to the point where we're overly stressed out, we're like, okay, time for a sissy day. You need a sissy day. And it's really that time where we can get together and really just vent out all frustrations, professionally, personally, and that's our time. And we all used to work together years ago, and we met at work. And from that point, we have been like attached to each other. So it gets to those points where you may feel that you're starting to get really overwhelmed.
Yeah.
If a phone call does not cut it, it's time to meet up. It is really time to meet up. And that's what really brings me back to, all right, time to refresh, time to get your mindset. And, you know, you have different people in your lives who, you know, you get this inkling, like, I need to reach out to this person today. I have a girlfriend, Aisha, she's deeply rooted, you know, in the spirit. And just quick story how we met. So she's actually a pastor, and we worked together at a school. I was coming out of a meeting that I was really frustrated in, and I got to my desk. We were working at the same school, but she was in a totally different state.
Okay.
I got to my desk, and right before I was about to break down, the phone rang, and it was her. We never spoke before, ever. And she said, "You know what? Do you know who I am?" And I was like, "Yeah, this is Aisha. You're from the New Jersey location, right?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm sitting here eating my lunch, and the spirit told me, pick up the phone and call Kathy Belletty in Long Island right now." That's how we actually met. And since then, we have been so close since then. But that's how the spirit works.
No, definitely. No, definitely. So now, and this is a question I never asked before. To my guest is, do you have a retirement plan?
My husband does, so technically I do. But personally, no, I do not have one. But for the family, yeah, we have one.
Okay, so, and I'm gonna try to explain. Maybe I phrase it the wrong way. So when I say retirement plan, not financially, not financially, but okay, what's your plan after retirement?
Okay, so yes, so okay. Right now I'm really trying to build something, a legacy, you know, so that I can leave my son. And honestly, I don't think that I would ever retire, really and truly. I'll probably get to the point, my goal is to really get to the point where finances is secondary, right? Yeah. I'll be in a position where I'm able to lend and give and not borrow or anything like that, right? Okay. But really and truly, because I'm so passionate about what I do, I think I will continuously keep working. Probably not as much as I am right now, but I really can't see myself in a place where I just retire and then just go to an island and then I'm just chilling forever. You know, I would probably vacation a lot more, but I really think that deep down, I would still set aside some time to help the people that I serve.
Wow.
But I want to be able to buy my parents a home.
Yes.
We're now looking for our second home. I want my son to be in a position where if something happens to myself or my husband, he does not even have to blink his eyes and ask for anything. So everything will be set up for him.
Well said. So let's go with like we're gonna take a quick break, so commercial break. But before we appreciate you being here with us today. And so this is Divine Purpose Podcast. We had Kathy Belletty with us today. She's our guest. She's wonderful. Let's stay tuned for more with Kathy.
What comes before making a smart decision? Choices. A smart choice is the best option, which is who we are. That's why our clients expect more from us and, in return, get more in everything we do. We understand the problem. That's why we thrive for excellence. We don't just create a winning culture. We aspire to be a smart choice, a voice for solutions. We believe in integrity, professionalism, and teamwork. Our passion is to bring results from our clients by working harder, smarter, and faster. As a team, we always deliver because we recognize your needs. Choosing smart influences us to be the best version of ourselves. That makes us different than other companies. It makes us confident in achieving our goals. It makes us who we are. And it makes us DFM, the smart choice.
Yes, DFM is the smart choice. You can call them 617-237-0106 or go online at www.daciusfm.com for your property services, locksmithing, janitorial services. We have Kathy Belletty with us. She's back with us. So I know she had she want to promote training. So this is the time now to talk about your training and your education training you want to promote.
All right, awesome. So just let you guys know, the way that I train is to the individual person, right? Because I've been an advisor for a while. I was a director, so I've been in operations, I've been in a leadership role, so I understand our students. I understand how hard it can be and how challenging it can be to deal with our prospects, but it is one of the most rewarding careers. One of the things that we have to keep in mind when we're dealing with our for-profit, one of the things that we have to keep in mind when we're dealing with our students is that a lot of times they're afraid. They're afraid of failure. So effective communication is going to be key. Being able to follow up and making sure that you get students right through the enrollment process so that they're able to start these careers of their dreams. That's what's important. So I train from the very beginning. One, I want to find out what you're passionate about as an advisor. Why did you choose this role? Because admissions is not a 9 to 5. It's something that you have to have a passion for. So once I find that out from you, now I'm training on who our student is. Then we're taking you through the enrollment process, how to actually follow up, different ways that you can actually communicate. And one thing that I love about my platform, it's 1 year unlimited access for the entire year. So a lot of times when you're talking to students, you're like, oh my gosh, what do I say? You can easily refer back to the training video or the printable document, and it will take you through the process and get you back on point. So if you are looking to increase appointment conversions, if you're looking to really increase those class starts and enroll quality students who's actually going to stick and graduate, I think that this is the best platform for you, especially if you're looking for raw material and some amazing bubbly personality. You could just go to lessons.motivatewithkat.com and you'll be able to sign your team up for the training.
Wow, thank you. Well said, and we appreciate you sharing this with our audience. So let's go with now with our question in terms of where do you see yourself in the 5 years?
Ooh, that's a good one. I want to get to the point where I am really changing the dynamics when it comes to career education. I really want to get to that point, and then where I have a load of really passionate leaders that's working with me, who's inspiring all different types of schools to really get to the next level, and where they want to be. Because education has changed substantially over the last couple of years. And honestly, it's always been about numbers and the enrollments, especially when it comes to career education, which is why they've been under scrutiny for so many years. But at some point, it has to get to you looking at the student. You have to be student-centered in order to really help people. And that's my passion. I like to change the perception of what you think is possible. So in 5 years, I want to get to the point where I have the biggest training company, to the point where we're probably going on the road and we're traveling all over the world, helping these schools get to the next level. And I want my podcast to go to the next level as well, because Eddy Career Schools, the Scoop, that's all about career education and how much career schools are able to really help our students take the next level in their careers. And I think a lot of people don't understand how much career schools have to bring to the table.
Wow, you couldn't say it better. Let's go with this question now. What do people misunderstand about you most?
That is a very interesting question. I've never been asked that before. This is interesting. I think that, number one, I'm an introvert, right? Okay. And I think sometimes it may come off to people as if, I'm stuck up, or I'm just not interested in talking to certain people. My brother, and my cousin calls me bougie, and I still understand why. But because I'm an introvert, I'm not always the person that's at the forefront introducing myself and getting the crowd going. I'm always in the background, and I really like to look at my situation. I like to analyze and stay back and really get a feel for who people are and the audience. And sometimes I found that, honestly, throughout my entire life, until people get to know me, First impression, they have a tendency to say, oh, okay, so she doesn't want to talk to anybody because she thinks she's better than us. She thinks she's higher than us. And it's not that at all. It's just who I've always been. I am very shy. And when I say that, some people are like, I'm sorry, what? You? And I'm like, look, a lot of times when I have to speak in public, I'm going through like a little personal hurricane inside. But it's like when I turn it on, I turn it on. But really and truly, my perfect day is to sit back with a nice glass of wine or something and not be bothered, and probably sit in my sit on my patio outside and just enjoy the breeze and not talk to anyone. That's just how I've always been. And then I have siblings who are the total opposite. They're very extroverted and they're outgoing, and I'm not. So folks, if you see me not talking to you up front, it's not because I'm like, I don't want to talk to that person. I'm just very shy and just observing.
Wow. So, but can you share some lesson you have learned toward your career to our audience?
Yes. Honestly, I think anything in your career starts with a passion. And here's where a lot of people go left. Sometimes you have people who have been in careers for 10, 15 years because that's who they were 10, 15 years ago. The problem is sometimes people's careers are not meshing with who they are internally because they've grown, they've changed, their perception of what success looks like.
Yeah,
It's totally different. So you have so many people that are stuck in careers that no longer suits who they are as a person today. And that's something that I've learned throughout the years, because sometimes I may have had one direction that I wanted to go. Yeah. And when I really thought about it, I'm like, does that make my heart smile? No, it doesn't. And I think one of the reasons why I'm still in this position is because it's something that ignites inside of me when I train someone on something and then I see all of a sudden they start to reap the benefits, they're successful. So it's like, really follow your passion and your heart. You'll be able to know if you're misplaced. And there's so many people that's misplaced, but you'll be able to feel it deep within. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned, especially in my career. I knew that when it came to being a director, it was like, God is like, I have a higher purpose for you. And it got to the point where it got so uncomfortable, because that's what he does. He put you in a position where you're so uncomfortable. It's like time to go. And that's exactly how everything started to unfold.
All right, so we have a segment in this in our show called Time for Hot Topic, right? Time for Hot Topic. So where we're gonna dig deep into conversation, question people don't have a chance to ask you personally. So let's go. Time for Hot Topic. All right, so, and you can see that there's a trend of a lot of people, like personal coach, a lot of training out there. And do you think people are doing it for money or for the purpose of helping people?
Honestly, I think 80% of the people out there are just doing it for monetary gain. It gets to the point where you start seeing the same type of advertisements all over the place, and they're all different types of coaches and consultants, but it's the same message. And it's like, is this really possible? So I think that there's a small percentage of people who actually genuinely do this because they care about the client and their success. And I think 80% of them are just out there to make money.
So how can we differentiate the good and the bad?
Research.
From the bad. Okay, so tell us to the process.
I would say research. Anytime that I invest my coin into anything, it's something that resonates with the ad. There's so many different ads that I scroll through and I'm like, yeah, generic, the same thing. You're selling a dream. But then there's always this one ad that sticks out, and I kind of feel it here. And it's the presentation. Sometimes when people are talking, you can tell when they're genuine, right? But then also, I'm a Google expert, all right? So I always go and I look at what they have to back them up. I like to look at testimonials. Sometimes I'll reach out to individual people that I know and I'll say, hey, have you used these services before? Have you ever heard of this person? Because I know that my people are not going to steer me wrong, right? We all know that there's companies out there who actually write their own reviews.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it has to do with being able to have that discernment, but then do your own research too.
So I'm going to try to go on your website. And this is going to lead me to my next question. So what would you tell somebody right now who's listening to us and they really need a coach and they've been praying for a coach? And they get to listen to our podcast and they are hearing you now. What would you tell them?
I would say that if you were looking for someone who is not only concerned about the process, but concerned about the process and particularly your staff, then I'm the one to come to, because I found that a lot of admissions training is all about the basics, right? So you're going through the process and how to actually deal with students and what you need to do to be successful. I don't think a lot of people pay attention to the actual advisor. You know, if you have happy employees, they're going to take care of your customers. And I think a lot of advisors, they kind of get left out there, you know, in the grasslands by themselves, and nobody's really thinking about what's going on with them personally. So this is why I train to the individual.
So the next question is, why do you, and I think you talk about it when you said you went to private school, kindergarten, and then when you went to public school, there was like a big difference. Why do you think this difference, or this two type of education they are providing, are not similar?
Well, it's the matter of you get what you pay for, right? So when you talk about when you talk about private school, I mean, it costs a pretty penny to put your kids through private school. So I think that the curriculum is going to match the dollar. And then unfortunately in some areas, because I don't think all public schools are bad, but unfortunately in some areas, when you go to public school and it's free, you have a lot of instructors who are not dedicated. I've had instructors tell me, I'm only here for a paycheck, so I could care less if you guys show up to school or not. You know, and those type of things stick with you. And so I really think it's the matter of, if you want to invest in something, then you're going to get quality. And if not, then you're going to get exactly what you paid for.
So let's talk about your core values. Why are you talking about passion?
Because I feel like when it starts with a passion, it's a different type of connection. You know, when you talk about passion and integrity and transparency, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I came from their seat, you know, so I'm not someone who learned how to do this because I took a training on the internet. I sat in these advisors' seat. I sat there and I made 250 to 300 dials every day, hearing no after no, getting hang-ups. And I was able to keep myself motivated because I was thinking about that next call could be a person whose life I can change. So I feel like if advisors know that I've been there, they'll probably be more receptive, you know, to receiving what I have to offer, because I know what I'm talking about, because I've been there too.
Wow. So, but I see you have faith in there.
Oh. Yes, faith is very important. And this is the thing. I ended up starting this company one of those times, Eddie, when I wanted to back out.
Yep.
Right. So I was actually at that crossroad in my life where I said, you know what, if I'm going to take a risk on someone, it's going to be myself, you know. And it was one night, and I remember this like it was yesterday. It was one night, and I was sleeping. And I started to think, you know what, I really wanted to build a business based on motivating people, you know, inspiring people. But at 2:00 in the morning, I heard the still voice, and it said, the leaders and the advisors, you need to minister to them. Those are the people who need the support. You have 16 years of knowledge in your mind that people need to hear. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's it. it's the leaders and it's the advisors that really need the support. Dealing with students is not easy. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, that's when I knew this is something that I need to do. But my faith is what carried me through. Because when you're taking the leap of getting a paycheck every 2 weeks, right, consistently, and now you're taking a leap when you got a kid, you got mortgage, you have bills and everything. It's only faith that you can actually stand on. So above everything, that's where it starts.
So do you have a way to measure not success but track the result, the positive result from your training?
Yes, I'll give you a perfect example. So I actually am a consultant and trainer for a multi-campus in Pennsylvania right now. And I remember when I first started working with them, all they wanted to do was get to 25 applications, 25 lives changed or enrollments every single week.
Yeah.
And they had about 13 people at the time, right? When I came on with them, unfortunately, a lot of those advisors didn't work out because they were here for the wrong reasons. Let's just say right now they're averaging 30 to 36 enrollments every week with half the amount of people that they have.
Wow.
So when I look at metrics like that, I'm like, okay, so what I'm doing is actually working, because sometimes it goes deeper than the metric or the number. Sometimes it's really the advisor that you have to train to. And you have to figure out, okay, why are you going left? Are you coachable? A lot of people are not coachable, and that's why some people don't succeed. But I look at numbers very often because I want to make sure that what I'm doing is not in vain. And I found that once you're all about serving people, it just falls into place.
I don't think you got hot at all from the hot topics. I saw you striving. Whoa, that was great. I appreciate it, because I usually wait for, but you did a good job, and I appreciate it. It's like I wish I had more, but now looking for you now. What one question you wish I asked you today?
Maybe what does it really take to keep going every day?
All right. What does it take?
Prayer. Let me tell you, there's so many mornings that I wake up and I'm like, maybe I just tell my clients that I can't deal today. And there's times where I just hear that still voice, or there's times where you feel like you have so much on your plate and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this day. Sometimes I just shut everything down. I turn on one of my favorite gospel songs and I just spend 5 minutes and I'm like, Lord, take whatever spirit this is off of me, because I got a job to do. I got people to serve.
Wow.
And I think sometimes a lot of people don't have prayer lives, right? But there's always something that people do to put them back into place. Whether it's taking a long stroll, calling up that person, your person, or listening to your favorite song or dancing, something. There's always something that people can do to get their spirit back into line. And I think people need to spend more time with themselves and really learning yourself and what makes you happy, what lights your soul on fire, what makes your heart smile. And life would be so much better. And it's not going to get easier. It's going to get harder, because the enemy knows that the minute that you start to become successful, or the minute that you start to overcome, these barriers, he starts coming real hard. So I would say prepare. When things are looking up and that you're starting to overcome, those feelings that normally bring you down, prepare, because he's going to come harder. You've got to be able to pray harder in order to get through it.
Of our show, we had Kathy Belletty with us today. She's she's amazing. She did a great job talking about her career and give it advice and talking about her passion. So one thing we like to hear is and see how passionate people are in their field, and like you said, people see you and they say they're inspired, and I think that's a testimony that anybody who's listening, who's watching this episode will say. So, last word for you, Katie?
I would just say, sometimes you have to put yourself first. It's kind of like an oxymoron because you're in the position to serve,
Yeah.
but you're not going to be able to serve people efficiently if you don't take care of you first. So sometimes you may have to, take that time with yourself, really think about what you love, what you're passionate about, and what you can actually see yourself doing 10 plus years from now, because that's also important too. And once you're able to take care of you, you'll be able to take care of your customers way better than if you don't spend that time.
Wow, well said, well said. This is Eddy Dacius with Divine Purpose Podcast. We have Kathy Belletty with us today. And any movies you will recommend our audience before you go?
Ooh, well, two. Okay, so basically, I am a horror movie fanatic. So, I love horror movies. There's so many. Walking Dead was always a classic, right? But if we want to talk about a different type of movie, this is something that I've watched continuously over the last couple of weeks, and it was actually The War Room.
Wow. Yeah.
And I watched that years ago, and it kept coming on like on cable the last couple of weeks, and I watched it 4 times, and every single time I watch it, I take something different from it. Wow. But it's taught me a lot, and it's like, wait a minute, some of these battles are not meant for you to fight.
Yes.
So you got to learn to fight a different way. So if in fact you guys never got a hold of The War Room, I think that's one of the most amazing movies. And my favorite is What's Love Got to Do with It? Just saying.
Well, I think that's a good one. That's a good one. We appreciate you to be here with us today. We had a great time, great conversation. You can follow us on www.dppodcast.com, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We everywhere. You can find us on Spotify. Divine Purpose Podcast with Eddy Dacius. Katie, appreciate the time. Appreciate all your advice and talking about your career or your background. That was great.
Thank you so much, Eddy, for having me. It was a lot of fun. It was definitely a lot of fun.
Definitely. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.